I'm just going to say a few things here and then I'll wrap this up before I drag on for too long. You know, that last part about children being educated in the Constitution and in the legal process, that really struck home for me. Because when I went through public school, we never covered the Constitution. We never cracked it open once, never read the Declaration of Independence. In fact, what passed for American history when I was in high school was really pretty sad. So I think the system needs to be reformed right there, because parents do not have a active role in deciding how their children are educated, and I think that's a problem. At least it was a problem before. Right now, I'm not sure if parents have the time or the research needed to decide what exactly they want their kids to be taught in school. But you see, schools today are kind of obsessed with coming up with textbooks for each class, each course, each subject of study. They want to come up with a textbook, and that textbook has to be designed by certain groups or committees, and those people decide what they want to put in it and what these children are going to learn. There's no more broad self-education by reading the many, numerous works of value that abound throughout the environment of human literature. Really, as I said before, there's no monopoly on learning, at least not yet. The free flow of ideas and knowledge and information is amazing right now in America, and anybody can take advantage of it. You are responsible for your own learning and for your own enlightenment in life. I believe that. So you have to be able to read these older works by people who were there, by people who knew. And we don't do that anymore in America. About 4% of Americans will actually read a book in a year. Really. So, I can tell you one other thing though. My brother's kids, they cycle through books every week. They're going to the library and checking out new books, and those kids are sharp as tacks. My nephew, I can't even keep up with him, seriously. And they're homeschooled kids, by the way, which gives me hope for the whole self-learning and self-knowledge process. But as far as the reading requirements in high school, I can only remember a few books that we were actually required to read. And the only ones that come to mind right now were books on the Holocaust. And the reasoning for that was that the Holocaust was such a horrifying event in human history that no one ever wanted to see anything like it ever tried again, which I say is a valid reason. Yes, we should educate the younger generations about these things so that they know better, so that they know the lengths to which an authoritarian state and an all-powerful government can go. But in that case, if we want to educate the young so that they don't repeat the errors of history, then why don't we teach them more about the Great Depression and how it happened? You know, they'll read about the Dust Bowl and the Dirty 30s and all that, but do they really know anything about the Great Depression? Do they know that about 7 million Americans went missing during that time? They either left the country, died of starvation, committed suicide, which was rampant back then. They're gone, is the point. And our economic education in high school is definitely inadequate as well. What passed for U.S. economics in high school was pathetic. It didn't mention anything about Austrian economics. We never were told about The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith or required to read any of that. It was a totally one-sided and incomplete course of study. So we've definitely failed the younger generations right there, I guarantee you that. And furthermore, what about the wars that actually caused all this mass genocide in the 1900s and on? Basically, the 1900s was the century of warfare. It was non-stop war all over the world for 100 years, and everybody thinks that it's not such a big deal because we only hear the big names in history. But, you know, there were a lot of forgotten wars, not just Korea, that occurred all throughout the 20th century. So, why haven't these schools put Smedley Butler's book called War is a Racket? Why haven't they put that on any reading lists? Why isn't that required reading? It should be. Why isn't Gold, Peace, and Prosperity by Dr. Paul? Why is that not required reading? I tell you, I learned a lot about ancient empires inflating their currency and causing economic collapse just by reading that book. So, moving on, I'm going to end this now. I just want to say that the high school kids of today graduating have really no trades or skills or certifiable talents or skills that they can use in the job market to find employment. So basically, we're allowing them to enter the economy as adults without any useful skills, and I think that needs to be changed. So, if nothing else, in high school, we should at least give them the training to become successful and productive, responsible adults so that they can at least support themselves. So that's what I want to do in the Senate as far as reforming the public education system. I want to allow people to opt out of the public education system, but for those who want to stay, we need to at least offer them something that they can use. So high school, I think, needs to have technical courses, training courses, any actual employment skill-oriented courses that we can add to the curriculum, I think would be helpful. So that's my plan when I get into the Senate, among other things. And I've heard that there's already a movement in that direction, so I'll be happy to join it. But thanks for your time, neighbors, if you managed to get all the way to the end of this video. And God bless. I'll see you on the campaign trail. And I thank you for your time.